Welcome, curious mind, to Hidden Pages. Today, we are going on an even longer and more detailed journey through the life of Steve Jobs. He was a truly special person who changed the world. Many people know his name because he helped to create many famous things we use every single day, like our phones and computers. Steve Jobs was a very smart man, full of big ideas that were different from other people's ideas. He also said many very famous and important things that can teach us all. His life was like a very exciting story, with times that were very happy, times that were very hard and sad, and times of great triumph. But in the end, he changed the whole world with his ideas, his products, and his words. He left a very big and lasting mark. This very long story about Steve Jobs is for everyone who wants to learn about him in a super simple way. It's especially for you if you are just starting to learn English, a 1 level, and want many details explained clearly. We will explore his life step by step, slowly and carefully, like reading a very long book, page by page. We will see clearly who he was as a small boy, who he was as a young man, and who he was as a big leader. We will learn what big ideas he had inside his mind. We will learn what famous things he made with his hands and his mind. And we will learn what very important lessons we can learn from his life, including his famous advice, lessons that can help our own lives. We will discover the secret of his special way of thinking, how he looked at things differently, and how he made technology beautiful, simple, and useful for all of us. This is a story about creativity, hard work, never, ever giving up, and always thinking in a new way. Chapter 1. A boy's very early years and big curiosity, the seed of a great mind begins to grow. Our very long story about Steve Jobs begins a very long time ago, in the middle of the 1900s. He was born in the year 1955, on a cold day in February. But Steve did not grow up with his birth parents. When he was a very small baby, just a few days old, he was adopted by a very kind family. His new father was named Paul Jobs, and his new mother was named Clara Jobs. They loved him very much, with all their hearts. They wanted to give him a good, loving home, a safe place to grow up. They promised to send him to a good school and take care of him always. Steve knew he was adopted, and he always felt very grateful for his adoptive parents' love. Steve grew up in a sunny place in America called California. This place later became very famous for computers and technology. It is now called Silicon Valley. When Steve was a little boy, his father, Paul, loved to work with his hands. Paul was a mechanic, meaning he liked to fix cars and other machines. He had a special room next to their house called a garage. A garage is a small building, or a room where people keep cars or bikes or tools. Paul spent many hours in this garage, fixing engines, putting wires together, and making things work again. The garage was like a workshop, a place of creation. Paul loved to teach little Steve. He often took Steve to the garage with him. He did not just fix cars. He showed Steve how to use tools, how to hold a hammer firmly, how to turn a screw correctly. He showed him how to take things apart very carefully, piece by piece, and then how to put them back together again. Paul would say, "Steve, look inside. See how this works. See how it is built." Steve loved this time with his father. He was not just learning about tools, he was learning to be curious. He learned to look inside things, not just at the outside. He wanted to know, how does this machine work inside? What are all these small parts doing? Why do they fit together like this? This curiosity, this strong wanting to know how things work, was a very, very big part of who Steve became later in his life. He loved to look at the small wires, the tiny electronic pieces, and the small gears inside a machine. He found it very interesting, like solving a difficult puzzle. When Steve went to school, sometimes he found it boring. He was a very clever boy, very smart, and sometimes school was not fast enough for his quick mind. He did not always like to sit still in his chair and just listen. He did not always like to follow all the strict rules. But he loved to learn new things that were interesting to him, things that made him think in a new way. He loved reading books. He loved to think in different ways, not just the way everyone else thought. He often asked, "Why is it like this?" Or, "Why can't it be different?" This was the beginning of his think different way of seeing the world. Even as a child, he showed that special way of thinking that would later make him famous. When he was older, a teenager, Steve had long hair and liked different kinds of music and counterculture ideas. He met a very, very important friend. His friend's name was Steve Wozniak, or Woz for short. Woz was also very smart, just like Steve. But Woz was special in a different way. He loved to build electronic things, like small circuits, computer chips, and wires for computers. Woz was a true engineer, meaning he was very, very good at making machines work and designing their inside parts. And Steve Jobs was very good at thinking about ideas, about how things should look on the outside, and about how people would use them in their daily lives. Steve Jobs thought about the experience of using something, not just the technical details inside. He wanted things to be easy and beautiful. They became very, very good friends. They spent many hours, many hours, sometimes all night, in Steve Jobs' family garage. They played with electronic parts. They talked about new machines. They dreamed about making a very special kind of computer. This friendship was very, very important because it was the beginning of something very, very big that would change the world forever. They were like two boys with a big dream, working in a small, dusty garage, building a future no one else could see yet. Chapter 2. The Dream of a Computer for Everyone. Apple's very first steps and big challenges. After many years of playing with wires, learning about electronics, and dreaming, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak had a very, very big and bold idea. It was a new and amazing idea for a computer. Back then, in the 1970s, computers were very, very different from what we see today. They were very, very big machines. They often filled whole rooms. You needed many people, specially trained, to work with these huge machines. Only big companies or very smart scientists used these huge, expensive computers. They were not for regular people at home or in small offices, but Steve Jobs and Wozniak had a different dream. They wanted to make a computer that was small enough for one person to have on their table at home. They wanted to make a computer for everyone, for students, for artists, for small businesses, for families. This was a very, very new and brave idea, because no one else was really thinking like that. People thought, why would a regular person need a computer at home? What would they do with it? But Steve Jobs believed they would, and he believed they would love it. So, in the year 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started a new company. They started it in Steve Jobs' family garage, the very same garage where Steve and his father used to work on cars. This garage became a famous historical place. They called their new company Apple Computer. Why Apple? Many people ask this. Maybe because Steve Jobs liked apples, the fruit, because they were simple, natural, and friendly. Or maybe it was a simple, friendly name that was easy to remember, much simpler than names like International Business Machines, IBM, which was a big, old computer company at that time. Apple sounded fresh, new, and accessible. Their first computer was called the Apple I. It was very simple. It was just a circuit board, a green flat piece with wires and chips. You needed to connect your own screen and keyboard and power supply. They sold some of these computers to small shops and people who loved electronics. But then they made a much, much better one, the Apple II. The Apple II was truly amazing for its time. It was one of the first computers that many families and schools could buy and use easily. It had a nice-looking beige plastic box. It could show colors on the screen, and it was quite simple to turn on and use. It was a big success, and Apple started to grow very quickly. Steve Jobs had a very big vision for Apple. A vision is a big dream for the future, a clear picture of what you want to achieve. He wanted to make computers not just for very smart scientists or big businesses, but for everyone. He believed that computers should be beautiful to look at on your table. They should be simple to use, so that even a child could understand them without reading a big book of instructions. And they should be helpful for daily life, not just for math problems or big calculations. He thought very, very carefully about how the computer should look on the outside, how it should feel when you touch it, and how easy it should be to learn. He wanted it to be friendly and inviting, not scary or confusing. This strong focus on making computers simple, beautiful, and easy for people to use was a very, very new idea in the world of technology. Most other computers were made for engineers, not for everyday people. Apple grew very, very fast, like a small seed growing into a very big, strong tree. From a small garage, it became a very big company with many, many employees. Steve Jobs became very famous. He was seen as a very smart and special leader, but also a very demanding one. He worked very, very hard for many hours, and he pushed his team to work very hard too. He wanted everything to be perfect. He believed in making great products that were simple, beautiful, and worked very, very well, better than any other company. This strong focus on making great, perfect products was a very important part of Apple's success from the very beginning. He would often say, "We're here to put a dent in the universe," meaning he wanted Apple's products to make a big, positive change in the world. He wanted to make products that truly mattered. Chapter 3. A Very Hard Time and New Adventures, Learning Away from Apple and Starting Again. After many years of working very, very hard at Apple, building it from a small garage into a big company, something very difficult and sad happened to Steve Jobs. Even though he started Apple, and even though he helped make it very big and famous with products like the Apple II and the Macintosh, in the year 1985, he left Apple. This was a very, very hard and sad time for Steve Jobs. He had disagreements with other leaders in the company. He felt that they did not understand his vision for Apple anymore, his dream of making simple and beautiful computers for everyone. He felt that they wanted to do things differently, not his way. Some people say he was fired. Some say he left because he felt he could not work there anymore. Imagine building your biggest dream from zero, from a small garage, pouring your heart and soul into it, and then having to leave it. It was a very sad and very big challenge for him. He felt very hurt and lost for some time. He felt like he had failed. He later said that the heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. This meant that even though it was painful, It also made him feel free to start new things without the pressure of being famous. But Steve Jobs was not a person who gave up easily. He was a person who always looked forward. He always thought, what can I do next? What new problem can I solve? What new thing can I build? So after leaving Apple, he decided to start a new computer company. He called it Next. Next computers were very powerful and special, with very advanced technology and beautiful designs, but they were also very, very expensive. Because they were so expensive, not many people or companies bought them. The Next computer was not a big commercial success in terms of sales. However, a very, very important part of Next's technology, its special software, later helped Apple become strong again when Steve Jobs returned. At the same time, Steve Jobs also made another big decision. He bought a small computer graphics company. Graphics means making pictures and moving images, like in movies, on a computer screen. This small company was called Pixar. When Steve Jobs bought Pixar, it was not a very famous company. It was losing money. Many people did not believe that computer animation could make successful movies. But Steve Jobs believed in the people working there, their talent, and their big ideas for making amazing computer movies. He put his own money into the company to keep it alive and help it grow. And what happened with Pixar? Under Steve Jobs' ownership and encouragement, Pixar made a very, very famous and loved animated movie called Toy Story in the year 1995. This movie was truly special because it was the first feature-length computer animated movie made completely with computers. People loved the characters, the story, and the amazing computer graphics. It was a huge success. After Toy Story, Pixar made many, many more successful and loved movies, like Finding Nemo, Monsters, Inc., The Incredibles, and Cars. These movies made a lot of money and brought joy and laughter to many children and families all around the world. Steve Jobs became a very rich man because of Pixar's huge success. This difficult time away from Apple, even though it was very hard and sad at first, taught Steve Jobs many new and valuable things. He later said that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that ever happened to him, because it freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. He learned more about leadership, how to lead people with different skills, and how to encourage creativity. He learned more about making different kinds of products like movies and how to tell great stories. He learned about the power of creativity and storytelling. He learned patience because making movies takes many, many years. He learned how to work with different kinds of artists and creative people. These years, from 1985 to 1997, were like a very important school for him, teaching him lessons and giving him new skills that he would use later when he came back to Apple. He grew a lot as a person and as a leader during this period. Chapter 4: The Great Return and the World-Changing Products, Making Apple Shine Bright. Again, after many, many years, something truly amazing and important happened. In the year 1997, Steve Jobs came back to Apple. At that time, Apple was not doing well at all. It was losing a lot of money every month. Many, many people thought Apple would go out of business completely. It was a very sad and difficult time for the company that Steve Jobs started. The company he loved so much was in big trouble. But Steve Jobs still believed in Apple. He believed that Apple could be great again. He had learned so much from his time away, from building next computers and from making successful movies with Pixar. He knew he could help. So, he made the brave decision to come back and help save the company. When Steve Jobs came back to Apple, he made many big and bold changes. He stopped making many different products that were not selling well or were not very good. He decided to focus Apple's energy on making only a few, but very great products. He had a clear goal. He wanted everything Apple made to be simple, beautiful, and extremely easy to use. He wanted to make products that people would not just buy, but would truly love and feel a connection to. This was part of his famous Think Different philosophy. He wanted Apple to be for the people who were crazy enough to think they can change the world, the ones who saw things differently. And he did it. He succeeded in a huge way. First, he helped make a new computer called the iMac. This computer was very different. It was colorful, like a big piece of candy. It came in bright blue, green, orange, and other colors. And it was an all-in-one computer, meaning the screen and the computer parts were together in one friendly-looking plastic box. Before iMac, most computers were dull and gray boxes. The iMac looked very modern and fun. Many people loved it, and it helped Apple start to earn money again. It showed the world that computers could be beautiful and friendly. It was a new beginning. Then, in the year 2001, Steve Jobs and his team made something truly revolutionary: the iPod. This was a small white music player that fit in your hand or pocket. Before the iPod, people listened to music using big CDs or cassette tapes. You could only carry a few songs. But the iPod could hold thousands of songs, sometimes 1,000, 5,000, or even 10,000 songs. And it was very easy to use, with a simple scroll wheel to find your music. The iPod completely changed how everyone listened to music around the world. People loved their iPods so much. It was a magical device that brought all your music with you, everywhere you went. But the biggest change, the one that truly changed the world for everyone, came in the year 2007. Steve Jobs stood on a stage and introduced the iPhone. The iPhone was not just a phone to make calls. It was a phone, a music player, like an iPod, and a small computer with the internet, all in one small, thin device. It had a big, beautiful screen you could touch with your fingers. There were no small buttons. It was so easy to use, so beautiful in its design, and so smart with its features. The iPhone truly changed the whole world. It changed how we talk to each other, how we get information, how we play games, how we take pictures, how we send messages, how we learn, how we shop. It changed almost everything for everyone. It was a true revolution in technology and daily life. After the iPhone, Steve Jobs also helped make the iPad, a bigger touchscreen device, like a very large iPhone for reading, watching videos, and drawing. And the App Store, a special online shop where you can download many small programs and games for your iPhone or iPad. The App Store made the iPhone even more powerful because you could add new features whenever you wanted. He was a master of making products that were not just useful, but also beautiful, simple, and fun to use. He always focused very strongly on the user experience. This means how a person feels when they use the product. He wanted it to be simple, magical, and amazing. He pushed his teams to think differently, to be super creative, and to aim for perfection in every tiny detail, from the outside look to the inside parts. He always asked his team, "Is this the best it can be?" Is it simple enough? Is it truly great? Does it make people say, wow? His return to Apple was truly a second chance, and he used it to make history again, bigger than ever before. He believed in putting great tools in people's hands so they could do wonderful things. Chapter 5. His last years and his big lessons for us all, a legacy that lives on forever. Steve Jobs was a very strong and brave person, and he was full of energy and big ideas. But sadly, in the year 2004, he became very sick with a bad illness called cancer. He fought his illness for many, many years, bravely trying different treatments. Even when he was very sick and tired, he continued to work hard at Apple. He still came to the office. He still thought of new ideas and new products. He still pushed his teams to make things amazing. He showed great courage and determination, even when his body was weak. He loved his work and Apple so much that he kept giving all his energy. In the year 2011, on a day in October, Steve Jobs passed away. He was only 56 years old. Many, many people around the world were very sad to hear this news. They felt a great loss because he had touched their lives with his products and his ideas. But his ideas, his vision, and his work live on strongly even today, many years later. His spirit is still felt in every Apple product and in the minds of people who dare to be different. What very important and deep lessons can we learn from the very, very long and detailed story of Steve Jobs' life? His life was like a big, open book, full of wisdom for us all. He shared many of these lessons in a famous speech he gave to students at Stanford University in 2005. Be very, very curious. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Steve Jobs famously told students to stay hungry, stay foolish. This means always want to learn more, always be curious, like a child who asks why. Never feel like you know everything. Always be brave to try new things, even if they seem strange or foolish to others. Keep exploring, keep trying, keep wanting more knowledge and new experiences. Never be satisfied with just enough. Think very, very differently. Think different. Don't always follow the crowd. Don't always do what everyone else does or what is easy. Think in new, surprising, and creative ways. Steve Jobs always told people to think different. He wanted people to break old rules and find new paths. This means using your imagination a lot. It means looking at a problem and trying to solve it in a way no one has ever tried before. It's about being unique and brave. Focus on great quality and perfection. Try to make everything you do the very best it can be. Don't be happy with good enough. Aim for great or even perfect. Steve Jobs cared about every tiny detail, even the parts inside a computer that you cannot see. He believed that if you make something perfect, people will feel it, even if they don't know why. This means taking pride in your work, whether it's your homework, your drawing, or helping a friend. Be a yardstick of quality, meaning be the standard for how good something should be. Make things very simple. Complex things can be made simple. Steve Jobs loved simple designs and easy-to-use products. He always tried to remove extra buttons and extra steps. He believed that simple is often better because it makes things easy and friendly for people to use. Think about how you can make your own explanations or your own work simpler and clearer for others. Never, ever give up. Don't lose faith. This is one of the biggest lessons. Even when things are very, very hard, like when he was fired from Apple, the company he built, Steve Jobs kept going. He started new things, he learned new things, and he came back stronger. He said, "Sometimes life is going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. This means that life will have hard times and problems, but you must keep believing in yourself and keep trying." This is called resilience, meaning you can come back strong after difficulties. Love what you do with your whole heart. Do great work. Steve Jobs always said, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." If you truly love your work, your studies, or your hobbies, it is much, much easier to work hard. It is easier to overcome challenges. And it is easier to make truly amazing things that make a difference. Find what you are passionate about, what makes you feel excited, and put your energy there. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't stop looking. Connect the dots, look back and learn. Steve Jobs said that you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. This means that all the experiences in your life, even the hard ones, are lessons. Later, when you look back, you will see how they fit together and how they helped you. For example, his leaving Apple helped him learn about Pixar, which made him a better leader when he returned. So, all your past experiences, good and bad, teach you things that will help you in your future. Trust that all your experiences will make sense someday. Your time is limited. Live your own life. He also said, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." This means your life is special and short. Don't let other people tell you how to live. Listen to your own heart and your own ideas. Have the courage to follow what you truly want to do, not just what others expect from you. Steve Jobs was not just a businessman who sold things. He was an artist who painted with technology. He was a thinker who dreamed big dreams. He was a visionary who showed us that computers and technology could be personal, beautiful, and fun, not just for work. His legacy, the impact of his work, his ideas, and his famous speeches is still with us every single day when we use our phones, our tablets, or our computers. He truly, truly changed the world in a big way, and his story continues to inspire millions to think different. In very simple words, Steve Jobs was a very smart boy who was adopted and loved to build things in his garage with his friend Woz. He had a big dream to make computers for everyone. He started Apple and made famous computers. Then he faced very hard times and left Apple. But he didn't give up. He started new companies, like helping Pixar make movies like Toy Story. Later, he came back to Apple when it was in trouble and made super famous and world-changing things like the iPod and the iPhone. He taught us many great lessons like being curious, stay hungry, stay foolish, thinking differently, think different, making everything perfect, keeping things simple, and never ever stopping trying, especially if you love what you do. His life shows us the huge power of big ideas, hard work, and never giving up on your dreams.